So I used to be an orientation counselor at UCLA. It was like a summer program where there were, elder students that were there to help students transition into the university life. We handled counseling for both the ones straight from high school, the first years, as well as transfer students who are coming in from community colleges, having had a certain number of courses under their belt. We would help them learn how things are done at the particular university and then help them enroll in their first set of classes, as well as give some academic advice and connect them up with various resources. I really love the job. It allowed me to stay on the college campus in the summer when I didn't want to necessarily go back home. And I got paid a little bit. It was small, but it was sufficient. And like I said, the bigger benefit was that I got to stay on the college campus, which was a lot of fun. But I'm sharing this story with you because sharing this information because there's something that we always did at the end of each session with these students. With the first years, it was a 3-day program, and on the third day, the students would write a review on their counselor. It's supposed to be kept. It was kept anonymous, so you don't know who said what. And then same thing with the transfer students. And then it was like rating your experiences, right? Like, how did you feel like your counselor like helped you? Or I forget exactly what the questions were. But I do remember one thing, which was that for some reason, I often got higher marks from the transfer students than I did from the first year students, the ones straight from high school. Like it was noticeably, statistically significant difference. And it was kind of odd because I think for most of the other counselors, it was the other way around. They actually got better marks by their first year students than by the transfer students. And I didn't necessarily understand exactly why that was until I started teaching at a community college. And then I realized something. Damn it, I like these community college students way more than I do any of these students that went straight from high school to a 4-year college. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I have some guesses as to why. Now, I'm not trying to offend the students I've taught in the past at UC Santa Barbara or at Villanova. I'm not saying that y'all are not great students, right? I'm just saying that I seem to like my community college students more, and I think I have some ideas as to exactly why. So first thing, it started actually when I was interviewing for my current position at Pasadena City College. I remember I physically flew all the way from Pennsylvania to do a face to face interview, even though they offered me the chance to do a Zoom interview. I was like, I'll spend the money to do a face to face. And I got to campus because I wanted to check it out. I've actually never been to Pasadena City College at that point. And I stepped on the campus, and then immediately I felt something I haven't felt in years in all of my studying, whether it was in Boston or teaching at Villanova or uh, you know, even at UC Santa Barbara. I said this to my partner at the time. Like I called her up and said, I feel like I'm at home. This feels like home. And I was trying to figure out exactly why it felt like home. And I think I kind of have some ideas as to why. For one, it was the population of the students. This was a big one. I mean, it was the population that community colleges serve, because community colleges don't have any screening for, minimum GPA or anything like that in order for you to take classes here. You get people from all walks of life. You get veterans, you get immigrants, you get undocumented students, you get people from a range of, socioeconomic backgrounds. You get definitely a lot more racial, ethnic diversity. And it was also in California. I think that also made a difference, right? So something about it felt familiar. It felt kind of like how it felt growing up in San Bernardino County, where I was surrounded by the same sort of demographic, right? But I think the other thing that I liked about it was that because it was a community college, you weren't isolated. The students and the faculty were not isolated in a little bubble that is the modern 4-year college campus, right? I remember when I was studying at UCLA, I was pretty much confined to that Westwood, Brentwood area. right? You're kind of confined to that area. You might have a car and you might be able to travel places, but you would do that for, let's say going out to eat or having fun. You wouldn't necessarily do that for work, let's say, right? You would usually stay within that West LA area, right? And it was pretty similar for my students at UC Santa Barbara too. There's not very many places you could go. Downtown Santa Barbara is probably the furthest that any of them would go. Um, and so they're kind of confined to a very niche community that is filled with other people that is more or less similar age, and you have majority of them not necessarily doing a lot of like, you know meaningful engagement with people outside of that particular community. Like even if you got a job, it was probably going to be something on or close to the campus, working part-time, right, or doing some work study in that area, or doing an internship at a company that has had long experience working with the students of that particular college, right? But at community colleges, these students are kind of spread all over Los Angeles. They're just coming from, I mean, it's more or less regional, but Pasadena City College, like you go a little bit west, it is very different than if you go a little bit east versus if you go a little bit south, right? These areas are very, very different. So you're getting people from all swaths of life. And I think that's part of the thing I liked about the students. Because they were not isolated, and they aren't, I mean, I should say present tense because that's what I'm teaching, because they're not isolated in this small niche community, they seem to have a little bit more grounding in reality. Like it just felt like I was talking to a real person from, like from life, like just hanging out in the neighborhood or something, right? I love that I have students of all different ages. I love it when I get students that are in their 50s and 60s. I love that I get a lot of veterans, which I never got really. I got ROTC students, but not really like veterans that went off to like Afghanistan and came back, right? Like I don't get veterans like I do at community colleges. Um, and so it was very not only refreshing, but I just suddenly felt like, oh, I think I figured out why it is I seem to have clicked with the transfer students more. It's because even I remember even in college, I was not always acting like it and definitely not mature in any way, but I had kind of like an old soul, right? I connected with people that were older, more mature, more grown, had more life experience. I kind of gravitated towards it. And so when I'm at the community college campus, I feel more like this is like the type of people that I like to engage with. I love that there's much more genuine diversity, that I'm hearing perspectives from students that with all kinds of experiences that I just never would have gotten at a four-year college. So I'm not going to lie, I like it a lot more here. I like it a lot more here. I feel like I found my home. I feel like I found the right fit. I feel like they made a great decision in hiring me, because this is the right fit for me. And I love the students here. And I'm not going to lie to you, I like them a lot more than I like the students at the four-year colleges. That doesn't mean that the students are in any sense like better, or I'm not trying to like compare, but I think it does help me gain some insight as to like in thinking about why. It helps me gain some insight into what a lot of these college campuses, these four-year college campuses, are ones that are kind of isolated, where it's like a college town, right? So everything, all the businesses around it revolves around the college, right? When I go to those areas, I can feel the difference. I can feel the difference in the student body and the kind of in the life experience of the student body. And I think that that kind of might be helpful in making better sense of why it is that a lot of the students that went straight from high school to a four-year college in one of these little bubbles and then go off into the real world have a real difficult time adjusting. There's a period of adjusting and learning how to be quote unquote an adult, right? Adulting, right? Learning how to navigate work life and how to be a professional. I wonder if part of the reason that that's a little bit more difficult is that 4 years in college, they were disconnected from it altogether, right? I imagine, I mean, I don't know, I'm curious. Somebody should do a study on this. I'm curious. Like, I know that NYU, for instance, New York University, the campus is just New York City, is Manhattan, right? Because their buildings are just kind of like all over the city. It's not in like an enclosed space or campus, as opposed to like, Columbia, that's in the same state, where it's a little bit more of an enclosed campus. Somebody should do a study on this, like see if there's a difference in the student population, how they're perceived, whether they adjust better to, work life after college. Because it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the data would merely be backing up the impressions I'm getting. But all this to say, maybe it's because I am kind of like a grown adult parent now. I just like my community college students better. No offense to all the rest of y'all, but I like them a lot. And I think I'm going to really enjoy spending the rest of my life teaching in this particular college.